Ladies and gentlemen, we are back. This is episode number 6. It's crazy how we're already 6 episodes in. But welcome to Selfless Little Gaming. I am Selfless Gaming. You can find me on Twitch, find me on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, and Twitter as well. My Twitter handle is actually my old name, turd_slinger9000. I know, it's very mature of me to establish that name. But today we will be talking a lot about some sports, both NFL and college football. There's been a lot of shakeups here recently. To my left here is Little Jacob. Little Jacob, go ahead and take it away, my man.
What's up, everybody? Hope everyone's doing well. Little Jacob here. That's Little with a 3 at the end, and JAKOB to the name. You can find me also on Twitch, Twitter, also TikTok, and I have a Facebook page if you are on Facebook often, a Facebook gaming page. But yeah, you can find me on there. Mostly interact on Twitter and Twitch the most, but definitely feel free to reach out to me on those other platforms. Definitely a lot to talk about with everything that's unfolding going into week 5.
And real quick before we get started too, we will be doing, like, for those who are listening into the podcast on Spotify, we stream these live every Wednesday night at roughly 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So if you guys would ever like to tune in live and like have a live update or questions about like who you should start, who you should sit during the week, because we kind of give like our takes on who we think will have a good week, but we know like each person that is involved within fantasy football, they want like maybe questions answered to their roster and stuff. So if you guys ever can stop by, like definitely pop in the channel and like ask us questions, you know, in regards to your like fantasy football lineups and matchups this week. We usually stream it on selfless_gaming on Twitch. And this podcast is sponsored by Raise Energy. You can find them at raiseenergy.com. Or if you just go to Google and type in Raise Energy, you'll pick it up. I think it's like repsports.com. But if you are ever interested in some of their products, you can actually type in the promo code TS9000 at your checkout, and you'll receive 20% off as well. Well, Jacob, do you have anything to add before we get started?
I think we're good to go. I think we're ready to roll. See how your fantasy week go, man. How did everything go with your players and the team?
Well, we talked like a little bit earlier in the week, and I think this is one of those years where I have like a really good high performing team, but every week the team that I play decides to have like a career day, essentially. So my team has been averaging roughly about 140 points a week, and I am currently at 1-3. So I don't really I don't know what to do. I've had some trade offers come through, but they weren't reasonable in my mind. And my team's pretty like well balanced, honestly, but like it's just one of those things, man, where the past 2 weeks I faced the Bears defense, and I like put in the group chat that I'm in with our fantasy league. I said,
Yeah.
hey, whoever I'm playing next week, can you not trade for the Bears defense? I'd like to have a defense not pop off for like 15 points a week. That'd be great.
Yeah.
But my buddy I played this week was one of my friends from college, and every year that we've done this, our games have come down to the wire, and I think I ended up losing by like 2.4 points this week or something. So it was a really close matchup, but yeah, man, it just hasn't been it's been one of those like years so far, but we're about a quarter of the way through the season. There's still a lot of football left, so I'm not really stressing too much yet, you know.
Yeah.
Michelle, thank you for those 100 bits. I really appreciate that. It's very nice of you. How's your team do though?
I think we're doing pretty well. We won the game. So we're heading to 3-1 now. I mean, definitely the biggest factor for me this past week was just Tyreek Hill's monster game. He had 11 catches and 3 touchdowns. I mean, that he pretty much, like he has in the past, that's why I drafted in the first round, first pick. single-handedly pretty much won me the game and put me way ahead in the lead to begin with. Another pretty notable start that I had as well. I mean, Najee Harris also had a pretty good game against Green Bay.
Yeah.
Even though they did lose that game, he put up about 21 points. Mari Cooper, even though he did get a hamstring injury, only 3 catches, he did notch a touchdown, which was kind of crazy because like he was on the sideline, his hamstring, and suddenly just comes in the game and he catches like a 33-yard bomb.
He's a tough dude, man.
Yeah, for sure.
He's really a tough dude.
Um, I was kind of afraid that Stafford wasn't, because he didn't play as great as he had been the first few weeks against the Cardinals, and I was kind of afraid that I made a huge mistake starting Stafford over Murray. But it didn't end up biting me too actually at all, because they both had similar scores, and again, Tyreek Hill padded such a lead for me. It was good to go. I actually picked up Devontae Smith from the Eagles. Took a shot on the flex since Higgins is out, and he paid off big time for me. Like, kind of like it was predicted. He had 7 catches on 22 yards and 19 points. So that really paid off for me in the end too. I'm really expected. I think I was telling you, I am going to be playing my boss this week in our work league.
Oh boy.
In the past I've won, so I'm expecting for us to do the same. I don't see us falling to the team. Some of the notable players he does have, which I'm going to the game Sunday. I think we've talked about. He has Dak Prescott, so I mean that's probably going to be a good start for him. Dak's been throwing at least 3 touchdowns a game. He threw 4 of the last. Saquon's going to be there. He seems like he's slowly getting steam, but I'm hoping our defense actually like slows him down for fantasy purposes and for us, right?
Yeah.
He's got a couple other good players. Godwin, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Hines and his flex. Zerline and Dallas kicker Zerline. Hopefully for us, but he doesn't miss. But he's got some good players. But I think in the end that I'm going to be able to just have the better weekend. I'm still. I think I was talking to you before about it a little bit about it before. I'm still trying to decide if Higgins, because he may play. If he does, if it's even worth putting him in the lineup. And hopefully, which he is expected to play, Cooper is going to be fine this weekend. I think he's expected to play Sunday. McCarthy was saying he might have limited practice, maybe do like 50%, but he's looking ready to go Sunday. So I think I'm going to keep the lineup I had this previous week and hopefully carry me to 4-1. And hopefully this Sunday in the game, we go to 4-1 against the Giants too. But yeah, so far so good. Definitely, I will say that the only guy that beat me is still undefeated, and his team is still just like a juggernaut. I mean, man, I'm gonna just look at it real quick here, just to touch on his team.
One thing with Higgins, that's one thing that's been hurting me the past 2 weeks.
Yeah,
because I've had a lot of close games and I haven't had Higgins in, and that actually kind of like hurts my roster because I don't really have like a true good solid like wide receiver 3 or anything. Yeah. So it's really hurt me quite a bit.
So my friend Chris, who is the number 1 in our league, he's undefeated. His points he has the most points by far. He has 672 total points over the last few. A lot. I had a second, 554. But yeah, he's been blown out. Well, not maybe blown out everybody, but he's been his team's awesome. Points against are also the second lowest. He's going to be really tough to beat. I think in the end, it might come down to me and him again, like it was last year in the championship game for our fantasy league.
Yeah.
There's some other good teams there that are on the list. I mean, I'm the only one of 3-1 teams. He's undefeated. Everyone else is 2-2 or 1-3. So yeah, as far as the projections, I think the final stand projections shows me finishing at number 2, but hopefully we can finish number 1. But yeah, so far it's heating up. There's a lot of football left though, so we'll see what happens. There's quite a few weeks left in the football season for sure.
Oh yeah, for sure, definitely. All right, so we want to kind of get to I kind of want to talk about the games first before we get to our start 'em and sit 'em. And now I'm like kind of switching it up, but there's actually a couple games I'm really interested in. The first one is actually Green Bay and the Cincinnati Bengals for me. Green Bay is going on the road to Cincinnati. I actually think I could see this game being like a crazy high scoring game, especially if Higgins is able to play. I just think with Aaron Rodgers on the field and what he can do, like the Bengals defense, don't get me wrong, they have improved tremendously from last year to this year. Their defense is way better.
Yeah.
I don't know that it can actually keep up with the weapons that Aaron Rodgers has around him.
Mm-hmm.
But on the other side of it, Green Bay's defense from last year to this year is really bad. And they have, I think they're starting to come around. Like, I think they're starting to kind of put it together.
Yeah.
Um, I think the key factor for this is, though, is I haven't really seen an update on Joe Mixon, but I know he hurt his ankle.
Yeah.
So if he can't go, that's a huge weapon that the Bengals won't be without or will like be without basically. But I don't know, man. Like with the way Joe Burrow's been playing and the way their defense is able to actually get stops this year, I think it actually gives their offense a little bit more versatility to kind of take some more shots and get some more like high risk plays out there on the field instead of being like conservative, worrying about like giving the ball back to the offense.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I think that game will be actually like really close. I think Green Bay's favored in that one by I believe maybe a touchdown, but I see that game actually being a lot closer for some reason. And then another one I'm interested in is I want to see how the Raiders bounce back from their first loss. I
Yeah.
know last week we talked about the games, and I said like I see Arizona being the only team that's still undefeated going into week 5.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the case right now. Arizona is the only team that's left. But the Raiders took like a pretty decent thumping, and they're going up against another solid defense in the
Yeah.
Bears. So I'm interested to see how that offensive production turns around going against like two solid defenses back to back. And I'm also interested to see how Justin Fields does because he had his second game, had his second start.
Yeah.
He's currently 1-1 as a starter, and the first week I think he had like 67 yards of like passing, and this past weekend he went 11 for 17 for 209 yards, and he didn't have a touchdown. He had an interception, but that's a much better improvement. Granted, he's going against the Lions, but that's definitely a lot better improvement from your first start ever going against a good defense in the Browns to your
Yeah.
second week. So I'm just interested in to see how that kind of plays out for them. Um, there's another one I was actually really interested in. Um, oh, San Francisco and Arizona. I think, man, and you may know more about this than me,
Mm-hmm.
but I know Jimmy Garoppolo got banged up last game, didn't he?
Yes, he did. I was watching the game. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I kind of looked at Trey Lance's stats and like what went on and saw a little bit of highlights. If Trey Lance takes over for that team and he can perform like kind of the way he did, the 49ers are kind of a scary team, man. Like with what he can bring to the table. Um, and I'm kind of really interested to see if he's going to play or if Garoppolo is going to play because I think if you throw him in there
Mm-hmm.
with how like explosive he is at quarterback and the plays he can make with his feet, I think that actually like puts a lot more stress on Arizona's defense than they've seen yet this year because they haven't seen a mobile quarterback yet this year. So you throw that guy out there, and he has that ability to run and change things up on you and move the pocket. Like I don't know, man. I could see actually Arizona getting that first loss this weekend. I could kind of see that. So
Yeah, I think once Trey Lance gets a little more comfortable with his surroundings and he kind of gets I think his issue right now is like most young quarterbacks, he's still learning how to get the touch on the football, like to basically you don't have to like bullet the ball every single time and throw it as hard as he can every single time. Kind of getting a feel for the touch passes, the distances, and the kind of throws that he's going to need to be more successful.
Yeah.
He's definitely a great athlete, and he's definitely has a weapon with his legs. He's definitely a weapon with his legs. So that's not an issue. I think once he gets more of the timing in his passing down and is throwing it to more than one guy besides just Debo Samuel and kind of get some more rapport with Kittle, I think he'll, like you're saying, they could be really good, especially offensively. And once they become firing all the cylinders, and there's still lots of time for him to develop into that guy. And
Sure.
Jimmy Garoppolo could very well end up being seeing his last days as a starter, at least for the 49ers.
Well, and
If
he got like thrown into that game too, Like now he's gonna have a full week
Yeah,
of definitely like getting the reps with the ones and everything. And so I don't know, man. You're like it's just really interesting to me seeing like it's almost kind of like, okay, they brought in Trey Lance. We all know this was gonna be the guy, but
mhm.
it almost kind of could be like that thing with like Brady and Bledsoe.
Yeah,
Like Drew Bledsoe was a really good quarterback, and then he got hurt, and Brady came in, and it's just like all of a sudden that team elevated to a whole nother level, and here it is. Like, okay, we can't back off this now. So that's just a interesting little twist that's going on there in San Francisco.
absolutely.
So what do you got? What do you got for this week? Anything stand out to you?
Oh yeah, definitely one of the games that I think is really interesting. Even though I'm not going to be able to watch it at all because I'm going to be at a game, right? Dallas and the Giants. One of the other games that's really going to be really interesting to keep an eye on or to watch if you're at home or wherever you're at, is going to be Cleveland and the Chargers. The Browns and the Chargers. They're both 3-1. They've both shown to be really good teams. The Chargers are surging off of those last two victories that they've gotten. Since they've lost to Dallas, they haven't slowed down a bit. They've only seemed to picked up their performance by far. It's going to be interesting to see how well they play, especially with the Browns not being that great in the whole passing game right now, but the running is really carrying them.
Yeah,
And
their
I
running's
think that
elite.
if they can use the same blueprint that Dallas used with Pollard and Zeke, that they can have a lot of success there too. The defenses for both of them are playing well, so that's another thing. I mean, they played pretty good defense against us, and we didn't get to drop as many points on them as we have on other teams for sure. That was more or less a scoring game for Dallas. The Chiefs got riled up by their defense, so it's gonna be interesting to see how they respond to that. And the Browns themselves have really good defense, so I think that's going to be an awesome game. I was just trying to see what some of the factors were involved with that game. Um, it looks like all four of the Chargers' opponents this season have scored their fewest points when facing them. So that's pretty interesting. I think the Browns are going to run into the same issues, like we're saying. Also, I think that Kareem Hunt, if I'm looking at this correctly, yeah, he leads Cleveland with 121 receiving yards this season,
Yeah.
which is like I think we were talking about it before when it comes to the Steelers. If your running back is like leading in anything as far as receiving, and none of your receivers, it can be a problem. So it's gonna be interesting to see how long the running game will carry them, or if Baker Mayfield's gonna have to step up and just play better and connect with his receivers to win this game. But it should be a really good one. If I had to pick somebody to win, I'd go with the Chargers. So I'm going with Justin Herbert. I really like what he's doing. He's still performing on a high level. He hasn't lost a game besides Dallas since like last year, so it's like he's 7-1 right now,
Yeah.
which is awesome for how young he is, and the performance that he's putting on is great. So I'm definitely saying the Chargers will probably win by at least maybe a touchdown or two, in my opinion, for that game. Um,
I could see that definitely. I could actually see that.
yeah. Another game that I really think that it's either going to be interesting or it won't be at all, and that's going to be Tampa Bay and the Dolphins. Um,
Really?
just because from how the Dolphins kind of gave some trouble to the Raiders, I can see them doing the same thing with Tampa with the Bucks. If they can really go out there and play their best football. Uh, Tom Brady usually has some pretty interesting games against the Dolphins, even though it's not on the Patriots anymore. But Yeah, you never know what can happen. I mean, even though the Bucks are number one, like in passing offense, the rushing offense really isn't there like that. I think they're like second to last
Yeah.
in the whole NFL. Their defense isn't the best either. I'm taking a look now. The Dolphins defense ranked 24. The Bucks is 20th. So it's not that much better. You know, the Dolphins definitely will have opportunities to try to get Tom Brady to be thrown off. Tom Brady has lost 12 times to the Dolphins. I'm seeing here, double the amount of losses he has versus than any other opponent. So Tom Brady typically doesn't have the best luck versus Miami. Um, Brissett's not a bad quarterback. I mean, he's not the best quarterback, but Brissett's not a bad quarterback. He's shown that he can play and win some football games. He did have a nice little streak back when he was on the Colts. So yeah, I mean, I think there's a chance there um, for them, especially that they don't have Gronkowski and some of the
Yeah.
other factors that might play into that game. I think that'll be pretty good, a pretty good game.
What do you think about the Buffalo Kansas City game?
Yeah, I was about to mention that. That's going to be a really good game because I mean, Buffalo is firing on all cylinders right now. I mean, they're just red hot. Everyone on that team is just they're playing phenomenal football. The Chiefs, you know what they're capable of. You know they made it to the Super Bowl last year. They fell short. You know how explosive their offense is, but their defense is just so terrible right now, which is kind of a shock to me because I thought they were a lot better than how they've been playing. I mean, they beat the Eagles, but I mean the Eagles are damn near hanging there with them. So that tells me that the
Yes.
defense still really isn't, you know, really isn't doing all that great. It's going to be an interesting game because if the Chiefs lose this game, they're going to be what? Let me just double check here because I can't remember
I
the
think
record.
they're currently like two
Two
and
and two.
two.
So
Yeah.
if they go 2-3, that's I think that might raise some red flags for them in Kansas City, and they might have to really look at the personnel that they have on defense and seriously consider making some changes because when you're going into the stretch of the season where we're going to start going into October and then November and you're getting to the later stages, the problems they're having on defense need to be start to get fixed sooner rather than later because they've already had almost more than a month of football.
Yeah.
Um, and the
Well, and I think like
yeah,
personally, I think Buffalo, I think
yeah.
their defense and with oh, who is it? Norman, I think they have. Trying to think of his last name or his first name. Cornerback they got. Why am I blanking on this? I freaking know it. It's I gotta look this up really quick. I don't know why I'm blanking on this. I know his name, unless he's not there anymore. Maybe he's not there anymore. Micah Hyde, no. They used to have Norman back there. Maybe he got traded. I don't guess he's not on their roster anymore. Oh.
Yeah.
But anyway, I think Buffalo's defense um, is actually going to be able to slow down the Chiefs just enough. I think they're going to get like 3 or 4 stops personally.
Mhm.
And with their offense and how bad the Chiefs secondary is, if I was actually willing to put money on this game, one, I would definitely bet on the over in this game. Which let me see like what it is. Like tell you really quick what it would be.
Yeah, and while you look that up real quick, one thing I just saw is that the Buffalo for this so far for this year, right, over the stretch of the last 4 weeks, they have allowed the fewest points, fewest total yards, fewest pass yards, and leads the NFL in sacks. So even though some of the teams you might argue are like a lot less are a lot less skilled players overall on their teams versus the ones that they're facing in the Chiefs, because they played the Steelers, Miami, and I forgot the other team that they played, but maybe not really big time names as when you think of offensive teams, but they're just playing shutout defense. And yeah, I mean, like you said, they're probably going to get a couple stops on the Chiefs, and if they can rattle Mahomes a bit and slow down that passing game. I mean, their offense is playing too good, and the Chiefs defense is playing too bad. I don't think that they'll be able to get out of this one. if you were a betting man, I would say you'd have to bet on the Bills. I mean, I don't think there's not enough confidence in that defense and the Chiefs for me to bet against the Bills at this point.
So, me personally, I wouldn't necessarily, and this is just me, I would not bet on the Bills. I would bet on the over. This is
Okay.
why. The over under is 56.5 points.
Okay.
And the past 3 games that the Bills have played, they have scored 40, 43, 35 alone. They played Houston, they beat them 40-0, Washington 43-21, and Miami 35-0. The Chiefs we know can score. They average around 33 points, almost 34 points a game.
Yeah.
But right now the Chiefs defense is giving up 31.5 points per
Yeah.
game.
And it kind of reminds me of Dallas last year when, yeah, man, I mean, we were putting up mad points. Dak was throwing like a madman, throwing forceful. But when your defense is giving up as many touchdowns as your offense is scoring, it kind of just negates what you're doing, right? It kind of like cancels each other
Yes.
out. It really does not do any good to score those touchdowns when you're just giving those up at by the same token, turning around and just giving the same 7 up. Because like I always say, whenever teams get tied, it's back to zero, back to the drawing board. We have to start over, and that's exactly what's happening to the Chiefs. They're constantly having to start the whole game over again or start from scratch because they're giving up a touchdown the next drive after they just scored.
Yeah. Did you have anything like any other games that stand out to you?
Any other games that stand out? I want to say that we pretty much covered most of those for the most reason. I think some of the other ones are, like they're probably not as interesting. But you know what? One game that might be really good, especially because it's a divisional matchup, is going to be the Rams and the Seahawks. It's always a good game, right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of where my conundrum's coming in. I haven't decided if I should start Stafford against the Seahawks defense, which the Seahawks defense, here's the thing. The Seahawks is ranked 32nd right now, last. They're dead last in defense. So
honestly, I would play Stafford like personally against Seahawks because
not the Seahawks.
I would play him against the Seahawks.
Oh, you would?
Yeah, I would start him because their offense is healthy. They don't really have anybody out, and I think Seattle is going to struggle because Chris Carson has like really not practiced, and Pete Carroll came out today and said like he's basically going to be a game time decision. He's like, I'm not commenting on the status of the running back, which to me basically says I'm not going to like basically give the other team the advantage of knowing like, oh, Chris Carson is out. That's their best like running back they have.
Yeah, and then that's probably best just because like of course Kyle Murray's could probably still have a monster game Sunday, but I think that San Francisco has a better chance at slowing down Murray's production fantasy wise than the Seahawks and Stafford. So that's something that I'm probably just gonna leave him there. I have him starting right now, so I'll probably leave him there. But of course, you always got to kind of think about the matchups and take consideration.
So here's the thing with Kyler Murray, okay? Because I've watched some like highlights and film on him in some previous games. What a lot of teams try to do against him, which is what you cannot do against him, is they try to bring pressure from the inside. So they try to like blitz a linebacker, or they try to like do a twist with the defensive end or the tackle and like basically get pressure from the middle. But Murray is too athletic and too fast. So what happens then is you bring pressure in the middle and he gets outside the pocket, and now he can either like just work his way up the sideline or he can just work right back around to the middle. And what you have to do is, one, your defensive ends cannot get upfield on the guy. They literally have to basically just form a bubble around him. And there was always a thing that was saying like, I said it as a coach. I got it when I was in college as a defensive end. And even in high school, I had a really good high school coach and staff who played at Miami. Very, very knowledgeable guy, very, very good. And he always said, he's like, with me and my speed at the time, he was like, you are so fast off the ball, you get up the field so quick. He's like, but when you play against an athletic quarterback, if you get up the field and you get past them, meaning like If he's here and all of a sudden I'm getting past him and I'm deeper than him, he's going to move up and he's athletic enough to get underneath me. And he said, when you get even with him, you need to start to work back down essentially. So like if he's here and I'm starting to push up, I need to stop and start to like recall, because when he steps up, now all of a sudden I recall that pocket's smaller. And what a lot of teams do is when they bring pressure up the middle and he gets outside, there's nothing there. If you bring pressure from the outside and you have those guys literally just form a funnel, he can't go anywhere. He's got to step up into all that pressure. And his problem is he can run around like a little freaking Energizer bunny back there for 10 seconds. And that's why these like corners and stuff keep having such issues with like covering his wide receivers, because they're having to do it for 10, 15 seconds. And they can't do that, you know? Like you can't guard a guy for 10, 15 seconds running all over the field. So I think actually San Francisco's defense, with Bosa and the D tackles they have and some of the linebackers they have, I actually think they're going to be able to contain him, and he's not going to be as like spontaneous with the plays he makes this weekend. And I actually, that's why I feel like they're going to get their first loss this weekend.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. That totally makes sense there.
So, but yeah, I'm seeing like a lot of teams do the same thing with Murray, and it's like, like you can't attack this guy like that. Like it doesn't work that way. It's the same thing with Lamar Jackson. Like Lamar Jackson does that to teams all the time. And like Kansas City, when they played him, they started doing that. They basically just didn't let guys get upfield. They just contained them because they're like, we want you to throw. Like, we don't want you to beat us with your legs. And you saw what happened. Their season ended that night. Murray last year, when he had games where he had to actually sit in the pocket and be precise with the football, he's got a good arm, but his accuracy isn't always there.
Yeah.
So, like, that's kind of what you got to do with this guy and everything. But that's just, I just see San Francisco, like, actually winning that game this weekend.
Definitely.
All right, so start them and sit them. Okay. What players are you really thinking this week are going to be ones to definitely start, and who should you avoid?
Yeah. So for fantasy players, if we're going over quarterbacks, believe it or not, if you haven't figured this out already, or if you haven't, despite last week's game, if you have Sam Darnold, or if you can pick up Sam Darnold, or if he's just sitting there waiting for you and you need some good points, I would say that Sam Darnold is probably one quarterback you want to start this weekend against the Eagles. Aside from him having 5 rushing touchdowns and leads the NFL, which is crazy, I think he's going to put up some really good numbers against that Eagles defense, which has just been atrocious. They played really well against Dallas, and he did to an extent. He ended up throwing 2 interceptions. But I don't think that should keep you from starting him against this team, because, obviously a lot less superior defense. With the Eagles, they don't really generate any turnovers. And, at the end of the day, the weapons that Darnold does have and the abilities that he has himself is I think, going to carry him out there. So definitely somebody that you can throw out there to get you some points if needed, if you're not sure how your quarterback's going to do. For a quarterback, that I would say if you're gonna sit somebody, I would say that's probably gonna be Baker Mayfield. He really hasn't performed like the Baker Mayfield we saw late last season up until now. I think we were talking about earlier when I was mentioning this game that the passing is probably like almost dead last for the Browns. I don't see Baker Mayfield suddenly having a good, not a great, or maybe even not even a good game against this Chargers defense. They're going to bring a lot of pressure. They're going to have to, Baker Mayfield is probably going to rely on the run game a lot. So that's probably not something that I would anticipate you would want to do. It might even just be a low scoring game based on both their defenses playing really well, right? So definitely want to try to stay away from Baker Mayfield if that's something that you're thinking of starting. Let me see here what I list here for running backs. Actually, for a running back, if you're going to start anybody for running back, I think Josh Jacobs with the Raiders would actually be a really good choice. He played pretty good game Monday night, and he's always the kind of guy that can really have a big night at any given time. He can really pop off. He's a great athlete, and he's shown that he has a really good vision and a nose for the end zone. So I think this is a game that he can really blow up in against that Bears defense. He's definitely getting more increased touches and targets from what I can see from that Raiders offense, especially when Carr can't get it going with his receivers. He definitely leans on Josh Jacobs to keep the chains moving. So if you can utilize Josh Jacobs, this would be the perfect game for sure. On running back, I would say you don't want to start this weekend. Um, you know, I might sound a little crazy here, but I really do think that if you know what the numbers are, I think starting Saquon against the Dallas defense wouldn't be a good idea. Just because one of the things that I know that's definitely going to be a matchup that's going to happen is you're going to constantly probably see Parsons lined up with him and covering him. I know he had a good last game, but if you consider that as against the Saints defense, which isn't very good, I don't think this is a game where you're going to expect to see him score another 2 touchdowns, or he might get one if maybe. But I don't see them getting a lot of yards on the ground. One thing I can tell you about the defense this year for Dallas when it comes to rushing, we have gotten much better at defending the run significantly from last year. And let me see what the number that I had here. So last year we allowed about 158 rushing yards per game. This year that's been cut down to an average of 81. And I would like to think that we have faced some considerably good running backs. In that last game, we adjusted really well to the Panthers running and some of the gaps that they already hit. We started sealing those up. So I really look for us to do that immediately against the Giants. So that's just why I don't know that I don't think that Saquon would be worth starting this weekend if you have someone else that you can replace him with or sit in front of him, because I think one thing that Dallas knows going into this game, especially because Mike McCarthy talked about it, is that they're prioritizing over sealing up Saquon Barkley and doing everything they can to slow him down. And to be fair, in the past, we have been able to, even with lesser talented defenses that we had at the time, we've been able to slow him down and keep him under 100 rushing yards. I don't see that changing Sunday. So real quick, just go over the wide receivers. One of the receivers that I did think that would be a really good idea to start, that would be Allen Robinson from the Bears. I think that, like we were talking about, Justin Fields, he looks like he's really starting to get better now that he has a whole week of preparation underneath him. He's starting for sure. He has a role. I'm looking at him to really utilize Allen Robinson in this matchup and just going forward. The Raiders can be susceptible to the pass defense at times, with their pass defense at times. I think that he's going to go ahead and Justin Fields going to utilize Allen Robinson a lot this game to get the ball moving. So that's probably something that can get you a lot of points right there this Sunday if you got Allen Robinson. If you're going to sit somebody, I would say you probably want to sit Antonio Brown if you have him. I mean, he has been a great second option, but without having Gronkowski out there and, just after how they played against the Rams and everything, I don't see Antonio Brown getting open and getting the opportunities he has, because without Gronkowski out there, defenses can focus a lot more on the secondary players aside from, Evans and Godwin. And Antonio Brown, I think, is one of those guys that's going to kind of fade away in that game because he's going to be taken care of, or they're going to have someone extra to put in Brown. I don't see him having a really good game. At least me personally, I don't think I would want to start Brown in this matchup because he doesn't have those additional guys out there, or someone like Gronkowski to kind of set him free. Because most time, right, you're more worried about Gronkowski than the slot receiver, which usually happens to be Antonio. So yeah, those are just my picks. But of course, go with your gut feeling, do what you think is best for your team.
Oh yeah.
For sure. Anything can happen on Sunday.
For me, quarterback I actually like this week is Matt Ryan. He's going up against the New York Jets. I actually like the matchup that they have. Jets secondary is pretty bad. One thing I will say, though, with Atlanta, I do like Russell Gage and I do like Calvin Ridley as that matchup. Cordell Patterson, though, the Jets' actual like defense line is very good against the run.
Yeah.
Cordell Patterson has been pretty unique, especially last week. He put up a like ton of points and stuff, flexing from running back to wide receiver. I don't see that happening this week. So I would actually sit Cordell Patterson this week against the Jets defense, which I know that's saying something. But I like Matt Ryan. I like Calvin Ridley or Russell Gage.
Yeah.
Minnesota too. I love Dalvin Cook and that matchup with against the Lions. I also
Yeah.
think either Justin Jefferson or Adam Thielen is going to be a solid play this week against them. The Lions are just slowly self imploding. The only traction they're getting is on TikTok with Jamal Williams, to be honest. That's the only thing people seem to care about right now with the Lions and that guy. But so Dalvin Cook definitely running back. I'm playing. Matt Ryan, I'm definitely playing this week if I got him.
Yeah.
The people I'm definitely considering for wide receiver, or another running back too, I'm sorry, is Tennessee Titans Derrick Henry, of course, going against Jacksonville. And New England's Damian Harris, if you got him, he better be in your lineup. He's going to have a good game against Houston. They're just awful right now. Houston's just absolutely, they are the worst team in the NFL. I don't care like what statistics and stuff say about defenses. They are the worst team in the NFL right now.
Yeah. Definitely.
Wide receivers, I actually like Corey Davis going up against Atlanta's defense. I think as long as Zach can take care of the ball and he can like control it, not actually turn the ball over, I think he can actually Corey Davis can have a really good day. Personally, I also like Jalen Waddle going against Tampa Bay's secondary. I like some of the matchups he can create from a slot perspective and like an actual wideout perspective. Two other wide receivers I see both popping off in their games with how versatile that offense is Stephon Diggs and Emmanuel Sanders. I see both those guys having a really good day with how that offense has been playing. One wide receiver, you're guaranteed to sit this week. If you got him, put in somebody else. Kenny Galladay, the dude's going to be covered up by Trayvon Diggs. Sit him. He's not going to be getting anything.
No.
Trayvon Diggs is vastly improved from last year to this year. Dude is a monster. I think Dallas is actually, I could see Dallas actually getting to more of a, like, if he continues to play the way he is, I could actually see them slowly progressing to more of a, hey, we're leaving you on an island. You're going to be by yourself.
Yeah.
We're going to start bringing some more blitz packages from your side of the field because you can lock these people down. Like, I could actually see that progressing more and more. The other thing, too, wide receivers that I don't like is Denver's wide receivers. I know, like, some people, like Sutton, I've seen some people talk like, oh, you might have a big game and stuff this week. Teddy Bridgewater really hasn't been playing too good. And I don't know the state of TJ Watt. I think he may be coming back this week. I'm going to look at this real quick. But Teddy Bridgewater past a couple games has really struggled at quarterback position.
Yeah.
So I would just be hesitant on them. Like, if you got to play them, and then with all this being said too, like, if you have to play these guys, you have to play these guys. Like, if they're your only option, then that's it, you know. But if you have availability, like if you're in a league that's got only 8 people or 10 people, like, you have more of an availability. So you can honestly, like, basically, like, take a week and risk it and not play some of these guys. I've done that stuff in the past in my fantasy league where I've had some years where I've been like 4-0 And then it's just like, man, I don't really like these matchups, and I've literally taken out some guys and set them this week and put in my alternates. And people have looked at me like I'm crazy. They're like, why the hell are you not playing Kenny Galladay this week? And I'm like, I don't, the matchup, man, like he's going to be locked down and double covered. And the guy I put in, went off for 16 points, and Kenny Galladay got 3 on the day. It's just, you got to kind of look at it. Like, you can't just look at your projections always, because
Yeah.
they're high value guys. They're going to get targets thrown to them, but it's just kind of a, you gotta really look at like what you're going up against, honestly.
Yeah, for sure.
So those are my like start 'em and sit 'em. Some games that I think you could definitely like put some money towards if they're like the spreads in the right direction. Especially for our like segment here of, where's it at?
Evil Empire, laughing all the way to the bank.
So some money in the bank segments that we could go over. I already said earlier, Buffalo, Kansas City, take the over in that game. If it stays around 56, take the over. If it's like gets up to like closer to 60, I'd back off it a little bit and I'd take the under. San Francisco, Arizona. Depending on who the quarterback is, if it's Trey Lance, I could see them actually putting up some numbers. If it is against, or if it's going to be Jimmy Garoppolo, and it's like in the 50s, I'd probably take the under in that, because I don't think Arizona's going to like score a crap ton of points like they have been.
Yeah.
Dallas, New York. I would actually take Dallas on the money line for this one. And the reason I say the money line is because I'm trying to see what the spread is here. It's got it. A nice storm going on outside. Dallas is favored by a touchdown, but the over-under is 52. And the reason I say take Dallas on the money line is because if they're by 7, then Dallas is probably around like 300, negative 300 on the money line. I also could see too, though, this game being, I don't want to say like crazy close, but it's definitely a divisional rivalry game with the Giants. Giants just came off a win. I think they're starting to kind of figure things out. So I could actually see them like giving Dallas some issues potentially throughout the game that could prevent the score from like definitely going up over, or I could actually see it coming down to a field goal, because I've seen some of their games in the past, and it just always seems like the Giants games, it's either like the Giants or the Redskins seem to be games where it's like, dude, why is this closer than what it needs to be and stuff. And granted, they're a different team all together this year. Like, their offense is clicking like crazy, their defense is clicking like crazy, but it just seems like those two teams out of that division always kind of like cause them to slow down a little bit.
Yeah, for sure.
And then definitely Minnesota versus Detroit will be like my last one for sure. If it gets to around like 8 points, I would definitely take the points. If it's under 49, like the over under is under 49 points, I would definitely take the under on that and stuff. So, because I could see the Vikings putting up some good points, but I don't see the Lions really scoring that much.
Yeah.
This is my kind of take on if you're wanting to throw some dollars down.
Yep. Gotcha. Definitely. Yeah, I mean, the good news is that, I mean, Dallas has been averaging more than 30 points a game, and Giants have been giving up pretty much 30 or more points a game, so that's definitely in our favor. Hopefully, what I liked about this last game with the Panthers is that we faced some definite adversity. We were looking sloppy, and we were getting, we pretty much came out there and got punched in the mouth by the offense. You go into the half, we're down by a point. Because they decided to go for 2. I don't know. But it it kind of seemed like a typical game where Dallas is having trouble by the beginning of the first half, and we're not playing good. Oh no, here comes the second half where we come out and we play like crap. You know what I mean? And it it continues. That was the complete opposite of the team that came out of that huddle. I mean, out of the locker room, they were, and I think Zeke said it well. Like they came out of that locker room pissed hot, like they were pissed off, and they weren't messing around. And then all of a sudden, you got Trayvon Diggs getting interception. They're getting sacks. They ended up getting total 5. They just start really clicking on offense. The running game is going off. I expect that if they do run into any kind of trouble with the Giants, which they might, because it's a rival game and it usually ends up playing out like that, I have a lot more confidence that they might not end up letting it get close or become close because of how I've seen them perform when they do face some adversity versus how they used to be. It used to be like the complete opposite. They'd come out of the locker room, like I was saying, dragging ass and just not playing good still. But I think I'm pretty confident that if they do run into some trouble, or let's say if Saquon's get ripping off big chunks, I think that they'll adjust. Dan Quinn will have them adjust. They'll start filling up the gaps or whatever they need to do to get the job done. So I do like that they're taking the 1-0 approach every week, and 1-0 meaning we just won one game. There's still more work to do. We still need to get better, and we're not finished yet. So definitely looking forward to the game there on Sunday. But it should be good. So I'm pretty excited. There's going to be a lot of good games this weekend. So keep an eye on everything for it if you can. I know we wish we could watch all the games at once, or at least like if you could watch all the games that your players are playing on, that'd be pretty dope. So I like going to places like Twin Peaks and stuff sometimes because they got, a bunch of TVs everywhere. You can just peek around real quick. Hey, who's scoring what? It's always nice.
Oh, yeah. So, well, we're going to get to some college action, but we're kind of like running over time here and everything. So we may do like another episode this week and talk about like some college football action because there's been a lot of movement. I think a lot of teams that were preseason ranked very high, or like there's several that are no longer ranked. There's several people who were looked at early on the season that were pretty much like, oh, wow, this team's vastly improved through the first 2 weeks, and then now they've lost 2-3 straight. So there's quite a bit of movement in college football. And we'll definitely cover that like next episode for sure. We'll start off with that and everything, but due to some time constraints and everything here, we'll kind of like wrap it up. But we appreciate y'all tuning in, listening. Once again, every Wednesday at 8 p.m. there will be live streaming of the podcast on twitch.tv/selfless_gaming. So you can tune in there and check us live. If you've got any questions, basically like ask us. And we'll give you some of the best advice we can. Once again, I'm Selfless Gaming. You can find me on Twitter, TikTok, YouTube, and Twitch, and Instagram as well. My Instagram is actually Selfless Gaming 34 on there. And then Little Jacob.
Yeah, same thing, guys. Little Jacob with the 3 at the end instead of an E. JAKOB. You can also find me on Twitch, TikTok, Twitter, the main places that I communicate and everything on the social medias. I also have a Facebook page if you'd like to communicate on there as well. But yeah, definitely like Selfless Gaming here was saying, just feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions, suggestions, or any topics that you want to discuss. I mean, definitely do like to hear the people's feedback or input or suggestions on games and everything. So yeah, we're definitely going to be able to get into more, and I appreciate y'all listening and taking the time to check out the podcast. Definitely enjoy it.
All right, y'all. We'll be back next week. Be sure to check us out. We appreciate y'all, and y'all be good. See ya.
Laters.